What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and welcome back to the Rumor Roundup, our weekly series where we cover all the news and rumors that you may have missed over the course of the week, and let's get into it. Let's talk about this. So as our first piece of news, by the way, we're going to have a lot of Black Adam stuff here because the movie's coming out and all kinds of little tidbits are being revealed for this film. But in our first piece of news, rumors abound, specifically coming from KC Walsh, who's just a movie insider that dumps information, much like Daniel Rickman or Daniel RPK, as some people know him. This guy's come out and said that supposedly Henry Cavill is going to appear in the Black Adam film as Superman. Now, do not take this as an absolute, so do not get on Twitter and say, oh my God, everybody, Henry Cavill is going to be Superman in Black Adam. Rob at Geek Culture Explained told me so. That's not what I'm saying. It's just a rumor that's circulating around out there. Now, the evidence being used for this is a scenario or a situation in the film where Black Adam basically says, there's no one on Earth who can stop me, and the response is, good thing I'm not from this Earth. Now, the reality here is that when it comes to Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam in the Warner Brothers Cinematic Universe, there's only two people we really want to see him fight. The first one is Shazam, because Black Adam is historically a Shazam villain. But I will say that that's mostly comic book fans who want to see that. What casual moviegoers want to see is Black Adam versus Superman. That's really what they want to see, because Superman's the big heavy hitter in Warner Brothers Cinematic Universe or the DC Cinematic Universe, and Black Adam, really, like Dwayne Johnson is pitching him, as like the replacement for Superman. So what better way to see these two guys kind of meet each other than to watch them beat the hell out of each other? It's like Batman and Superman in DC Comics, right? Every time DC reboots and the two of them meet for the first time, Batman and Superman fight. It's been a thing since The Dark Knight Returns. So again, whether or not this is true has yet to be seen, but it would be awesome if it happened. But in another piece of news, because the blows just keep coming for Warner Brothers, apparently there was a new trailer that was released for Black Adam that featured footage from the Joss Whedon Justice League film instead of the Zack Snyder Justice League film. As you guys can imagine, this pissed off all the Zack Snyder fans. Now, I know, you're probably asking yourself, but Zack Snyder fans don't matter. Why would that be relevant at all? And you're right, Zack Snyder fans don't matter. But the thing about this is, they're really the only fans Warner Brothers has left, so they might as well not piss them off. And so in order to appease the Zack Snyder fans, what ended up happening is Warner Brothers took the trailer down, they removed the Joss Whedon Justice League scene and replaced it with the Zack Snyder Justice League scene and re-uploaded it, which appeased like 5,000 people among the millions who may go see this movie. So it's one of those things where DC just kind of shows that they've got their priorities in the wrong place in terms of who they're trying to appease, because I don't think most people even realized what had gone on in that trailer. But continuing on with our Black Adam discussion here, apparently there's been rumors circulating around out there that Black Adam in the Justice League is supposed to happen. Now, Grace Randolph came out and said that apparently what's actually going on is Dwayne Johnson is pitching the idea to Warner Brothers of Black Adam versus the Justice League versus the Suicide Squad, potentially even featuring characters like Amanda Waller, which would just be amazing to see. Now, whether or not this is true, of course, again, it's really just a rumor, but the funny thing about this is the Shazam 2 director, David Sandberg, came out and was like, I don't really know if that's true or not, but I will say it'd be hilarious to see Black Adam fight pretty much everybody in the DC universe except for Shazam, which would be funny. I'm not gonna lie, it would be pretty hilarious. In terms of when these two guys are gonna fight and when they're gonna meet, I don't really know, right? Like Zachary Levi was exceedingly coy about that at San Diego Comic-Con, if you guys remember. He was asked that question, like, when are you gonna fight Black Adam? And he's like, well, I mean, you know, this is one of those things. And like, we never really got a definitive answer. And even when The Rock was asked who would win in a fight between you and Superman, The Rock was like, well, I mean, you know, I'm Dwayne Johnson, probably me. And like, that was basically it, right? So there's not really been any information coming out as to whether any of these rumors are true in any real capacity. But I will say this, I think that Black Adam has really built up a lot of hype among people. And while they're not overly vocal about it, while you don't see posts on Twitter and Reddit all over the place talking about Black Adam, and it certainly doesn't feel like the kind of hype that you got when it came to like Infinity War and Endgame and a lot of the other MCU projects, I think this is actually a very exciting project, and I think it's the most exciting people have been for the DC Cinematic Universe for quite some time. So assuming this movie is done right, and assuming it's done well, this could actually be the shot in the arm that the Warner Brothers Cinematic Universe needs in order to revitalize interest in the DC Cinematic Universe as a whole. So it could literally be this thing that saves it. It's entirely possible, but of course, we'll find out on October 21st, when Black Adam comes out. But moving away from Black Adam and focusing on She-Hulk for a second, the She-Hulk TV show has failed to make the Nielsen top charts. Now, for those of you guys who don't know the significance of that, Nielsen is a ratings company. So whenever you see these news articles and stuff where they're like, this show got this many millions of viewers over the course of its whole first season, those are Nielsen ratings. They track episode by episode, and it's what a lot of companies use to determine whether or not they're going to continue a show at all. It's what Netflix uses, Disney uses, the whole 9 yards. Everybody uses it. The result of this is that the revelation that She-Hulk has not topped the charts when it came to Nielsen is surprising, given the nature of the fact that it's a Marvel product. And in fact, this is the first time that's happened. This is also drawing a lot of people to the conclusion that Marvel products aren't really doing anything for Disney Plus. That the reality is people aren't really signing up for Disney Plus in droves to watch this. Now, in truth, I think it's less to do with Marvel as a whole, and I think it has more to do with the products that they're creating. Granted, She-Hulk certainly does have an audience, and that audience loves She-Hulk. For me as a person, I think Marvel screwed the pooch by not turning the show into something where She-Hulk was basically representing some Y or Z list villain every episode, and that was just a part of the episode. But it shows her being a lawyer and doing that stuff, and it shows us just how wonky and goofy some of the villains or even heroes really are out there in the Marvel landscape. But as a result of that, the show that we got basically feels like pretty white kids with problems, and it doesn't really resonate with me because I'm not a pretty white girl and I don't have to deal with pretty white girl problems. And so it's just not really my thing. And that kind of seems to be the sentiment among a lot of people out there. And so this is really the question that I would pitch to you guys when it comes to the success or lack of success of She-Hulk, depending on which side of this aisle that you're on. Is the Daredevil hype hurting She-Hulk? Is it one of those things where people are just like, I'm not going to watch it until Daredevil shows up? Are we literally going to see this situation where the She-Hulk show came out and the ratings started going down like that, and then you get a spike with Daredevil and then it drops off when Daredevil's not in it anymore? Is that one of those things that's creating problems for the show? Do people just not care about a character and they want to see characters they do care about, like Daredevil? But continuing on with our coverage of Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff and just talking about some cool things, according to Lian Yang, who's a stunt performer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we actually ended up getting some measure of a preview of what would have been a scene in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness that, had it not been cut, would have made the movie rated R. Specifically, the scene has to do with the Scarlet Witch. No, it's not a dirty scene. Get your minds out of the gutter. So here's the thing. This particular scene would have been a hyper-violent scene, and it would have taken place during the battle at Kamar Taj, and it would have been an exceedingly brutal battle. Now, in hindsight, looking back at Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I think that's one of those moments of the movie that probably should have been more brutal. It was cool to see, but I think it should have been more extreme because it would have shown just how far the Scarlet Witch had fallen and just how powerful she was in the face of all these sorcerers she was going against. Such as it is, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is largely a family-friendly property, so they kind of have to keep it family-friendly in terms of the content that they're producing because that's where you make the most money. But continuing on here, we have a leaked photo of Scott Lang as Ant-Man, literally looking like he just got the hell beat out of him. And we don't really even know where this thing comes from, but a lot of people are saying this is basically a moment after he fought Kang the Conqueror. Now, we don't know exactly how Kang is going to be handled in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but something to understand, when it comes to Kang the Conqueror in his base form, meaning you strip away all the technology and everything, there's really nothing special about him, right? I mean, he's given himself enhancements over time that have allowed him to face off against people that he normally wouldn't face off against, but as a normal guy, he's literally that, just a normal guy. It's all the enhancements and the technology that he had done to himself that made him more capable. Having said that, if they handle him in any way that's even comparable to his comic book counterpart in terms of strength, speed, durability, all that kind of stuff, yeah, this is probably him having beaten the hell out of Scott Lang. Either that or it was the forces of Kang having beat up Scott Lang. Again, it's a single image taken out of context and we have no idea what this ties into. For all we know, he just fell down a really long set of steps. We have no clue what it is that happened to him. Now, continuing on, the trailer for Loki from D23 has leaked online, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it by now. Admittedly, we've held off to a degree because we weren't entirely sure how that would be handled, that literally Disney and them were pulling the trailer down. So our fear here at Geek Culture Explained was that if we did a trailer breakdown on the leaked trailer, that'd be a copyright strike, and we get 3 of those and YouTube shuts our whole channel down. And YouTube doesn't really ask questions whenever anybody applies a strike, right? They apply a strike then you can appeal, and depending on how much money that person pays YouTube and ad revenue, YouTube may or may not help you. So it really kind of depends. Disney's got some deep pockets, pretty sure they're able to make that kind of stuff happen, but we ultimately held off because we weren't really sure how this was going to be handled across the YouTube platform. But in one of the bigger things, transitioning to gaming, in one of the bigger pieces of news to happen, I don't know how many of you guys caught it, some kid out in Britain hacked Rockstar Games and just dumped footage of GTA 6's development, right? Like dump footage of the game, just showing everybody what it looks like. Now that kid has since been arrested, but I gotta say, man, it takes balls to hack a AAA gaming studio like that and dump GTA 6 footage out there for the world to see. If anything, as well, this does lead to this kid's arrest, Rockstar Games had to be leaping for joy as soon as this happened, because people don't hack gaming studios and release footage about games that no one cares about. So what this shows, and just as highly as this was just spread around the internet, it shows there's a ton of interest in Grand Theft Auto 6 because it's just taken so long for us to get it. For those of you guys who aren't really aware of the reason why, it's because once GTA 5 was released with an online component, Rockstar Game realized they could make a lot of money doing that. So instead of developing GTA 6, they focused all their efforts on milking the fan base for money with the online component of GTA 5. So ultimately, GTA 6's production was delayed, but now we're finally getting the game. So you can rest assured, given the online popularity of GTA 5, that Rockstar Games is probably going to continue this pattern of delaying the development and releases of future GTA installments because they can make a bunch of money on the online component of the Grand Theft Auto games. The only way to get around that is to stop paying them with the Grand Theft Auto online component. But going into our final topic, and this is probably one of the more controversial topics that we have, apparently Twitch has come out and made two major changes to the platform. So on October 18th, Twitch will officially ban any unlicensed form of gambling. And a lot of this is because a streamer came out and admitted to scamming their fans in order to feed their gambling addiction, which was pretty huge. Now, this basically led to Twitch saying there's no more unlicensed gambling, right? Like, unless you're going with a licensed gambling site, you cannot stream it. So likely what'll happen is what Twitch usually does when it comes to bans. Whether or not you get banned will depend on how popular your channel is. But the second thing that Twitch has done, and this is what really pissed off the Twitch community, is they've changed the revenue split. So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with that, you can gain revenue from a variety of different sources when it comes to Twitch. But one of the things they do is they have a 70-30 revenue split, basically meaning you get 70% of the revenue, they get 30%. They've axed that, and now it's 50-50. And Twitch basically came along and said the reason why they were doing that was just because of rising costs and having to tighten the belt and different things along those lines. Now, this has led to a lot of Twitch streamers saying they're going to abandon the platform and they're going to come over to YouTube instead. For those of you guys who are over on Twitch and considering coming to YouTube, I've been on YouTube for almost a decade. It ain't much better over here. So I'd be a little wary, right? I just be aware, this is not one of those situations where the grass is legitimately greener on the other side. Just look at any number of the complaints when it comes to the YouTube fan base. The reality is, it's just kind of happening across the board, that a lot of people are looking at Twitch and they're saying this is another instance of Twitch basically leaving their creators out to dry, that Twitch is inconsistent in terms of how they enforce their policies. I mean, the reality here is that whenever you have people, especially a community-based group like Twitch, where those individuals who run the company end up making friends with people in the Twitch community, you're gonna have bias. You're gonna have unfair disciplinary practices because nobody wants to be the one to ban their friends. Or one member of the Twitch staff bans a person, and then that person who was banned has a friend who's also on the Twitch staff, and their friend lifts the ban, and then nothing ever really gets done. It's really one of those things where it's just kind of the Wild West in terms of how Twitch manages their platform, which is, I think, one of the reasons why Twitch is really doing what they're doing, because in truth, the reality is when we look around at the idea of live streaming, it's not really that big of a thing anymore, right? It's not nearly as big as it used to be. And in fact, what I think you're seeing is this shift away from live streaming and even long form videos to a degree on YouTube. And it's just a huge emphasis on short form content, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, if anybody even uses that, just that kind of a thing, right? You're seeing people shifting over to short form content. Even on TikTok, people are actually streaming there instead of streaming on Twitch because it's easier to grow there because of the nature of the algorithm. Of course, again, you don't really have a monetization strategy on TikTok, so it's hard to make money, but the fact remains, people want to be ahead of the curve. They want to be there and they want to have a sizable audience so that when those monetization strategies come around and you can make money, it's just that easy, right? They just fire up a video and they're suddenly making X amount of dollars as opposed to having to build up to that income. But at the end of the day, I say all this to say, much like anything else, cash is king. And so Twitch is tightening the belt because they're basically dumping a ton of money on hosting the platform. Largely they're funded by Amazon, but I imagine Amazon's just kind of like, you need to get your financial house in order before we dump any more money into you, right? We're not going to put money into what's basically a money pit. So Twitch is making changes across the platform. Here's the question you have to ask. Is the strategy that Twitch is using to basically fix its financial situation, is it going to run people off the platform? Or is this one of those instances when Twitch streamers just really complain, but they just don't go anywhere, right? Like YouTubers, we complain about YouTube all the time, but we don't leave. So what reason does YouTube have to actually change any of their policies? So let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.